Our first lesson today is a reading from James chapter 3, beginning with verse 13, through chapter 4, verse 3, and including verses 7 and the beginning of verse 8. Who is wise and understanding among you? Show by your good life that your works are done with gentleness born of wisdom. But if you have bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not be boastful and false to the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, devilish. For where there is envy and selfish ambition, there will also be disorder and wickedness of every kind. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without a trace of partiality or hypocrisy. and a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace for those who make peace. Those conflicts and disputes among you, where do they come from? Do they not come from your cravings that are at war within you? You want something and do not have it, so you commit murder. And you covet something and cannot obtain it, so you engaged in disputes and conflicts. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask wrongly, in order to spend what you get on your pleasures. Submit yourselves therefore to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Our gospel lesson for today is the gospel according to Mark chapter 9, verses 30 through 37. They went on from there and passed through Galilee. He did not want anyone to know it, for he was teaching his disciples, saying to them, "The Son of Man is to be betrayed into human hands, and they will kill him, and 3 days after being killed he will rise again." But they did not understand what he was saying, and were afraid to ask him. Then they came to Capernaum, and when he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" But they were silent, for on the way they had argued with one another who was the greatest. He sat down, called the 12, and said to them, "Whoever wants to be first must be last of all and servant of all." Then he took a little child and put it among them. And taking it in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Christ. Our writer today, Brother James, is, of course, as we probably know, is the brother of Jesus. He's one of the 4 brothers of Jesus, and he also has 2 sisters, Jesus does. And so James is always listed too, when he's listed in I believe it's in Mark chapter 3. James is listed, and he's listed first among the brothers. So he would be Jesus' next brother after him. He would be his younger brother by one. As we discovered in that and I really do think it's chapter 3 of Mark, and it may be chapter 6, but I think it's chapter 3. Jesus' family has come to, or he's gone to Nazareth, and they've come, and they're worried about him. They're worried about his mental health. They're worried about his health, and so they try to get him away. And here's where we get, "Who is my family?" Sometime between then and the book of Acts, somewhere in there, there's a 10-year or so period of time. And from chapter 6 of Mark to where Jesus is confronted in Nazareth, to the spot in Acts where James is part of the group that is talking to Paul and trying to decide the fate of Paul. Somewhere in there, James not only converts to becoming a Christian and following his brother, but also becomes the head of the Jerusalem church. And prior to 70, when the church was founded there, the Jerusalem church was head by James, which gave James authority to write the letter that he wrote. And he's writing the letter to the members of his congregation that were thrown out of Jerusalem after 70, when the temple was destroyed and all of the Jews were driven out of Jerusalem. James and his entire congregation fled, and he is writing to those the diaspora of the Christians out of Jerusalem. He's writing to those refugees. And apparently enough of them have gotten together. And he's writing to them, and he has seen some trouble. And so somewhere along the way, James converts over and starts believing that Jesus was the Messiah. So James here is addressing some issues there with his spread out congregation, the people from his congregation. Or maybe he's addressing a wider issue that he sees among members of the congregation. As he's pointing out these problems that he has seen, he says there's an underlying cause. There's an underlying cause. There's an underlying reason why these things are happening. Why it has to do with your own self. That why are you doing the things you're doing? Okay, so you're collecting clothes from people who have abundance, and you're giving it to people who have no clothes or have very few clothes. You're finding people who need food assistance, and you're finding those people. But the reason why you're doing those are suspect, and that's the problem. You're not doing that because this person needs it, and that your heart tells you that you need to help this person and lift them up so that they can benefit better from society, that they can be lifted up more into society, into life, and have a better, more abundant life themselves. The reason you do it isn't for them. The reason you do it is because it lifts you up. Oh, it doesn't lift up your heart. It doesn't lift up your inner soul, your inner spirit. What it lifts up is your needs, your wants, your desires. It lifts up your status in society and the culture around you. It's for selfish ambition that you do these things. And when that is the reason, when that is the cause of why you do good, then it isn't really doing you any good. You may be doing good works in the world, but that's not bringing you closer to God. So why are you doing these things? James reminds them that it's done with a selfless heart. It has nothing to do with me and has everything to do with the other. Jesus was facing the same issue here with his disciples. On the road to Capernaum, as they were traveling along, they were having a discussion among themselves. See, Jesus is talking to them about how when the Messiah, when the truth be known, when the true mission comes out, it's going to be that he is going to die on the cross and rise in 3 days, and that is the mission. And somehow they are realizing this, and so they're talking among this, but not in a true sense. They don't truly understand what that means. That again, it's not about them and their place in the church, their place in society, their place amongst themselves. It's not their status that they need to be thinking about. But that's what they're thinking about. On their travels, as they travel to Capernaum, their discussion is, which one of us? When this thing happens, whatever it is that Jesus is talking about, and he's talking about leaving us, he's talking about going away, no matter how much we argue with that, he's talking about going away. Which one of us is going to lead? Which one of us is going to be risen up to that high status of being the leader of this group? And Jesus tells them in a very gentle way that it's the child that leads the group. And when you accept the child, the lowest among them, the one that has the least amount of rights, the least amount of life, that is a free life that they're given, Children who are the very bottom of their cultural and societal norm. When you accept this hungry child, that the child leads, the servant leads. The servant leads to what direction this needs to go. It needs to go toward grace. It needs to go toward God. It needs to move, that when you put the other first, you don't only just welcome my message into your life, you also welcome God into your life. And your priority is the other. It is the attitude that makes all the difference.